Okay. Well, hi everyone. I'm Kelly, head of adult services at Cooper-Siegel here, and I have the pleasure of talking with Grace Affeltranger. Hi, Grace.
Hi.
You're the owner of Botanical Vegan Cafe,
hmm
and why don't you tell us a little bit about that place?
Sure. There are kind of two stories that I describe when I talk about it now, and it's the pre-COVID one, and it's what's now.
Sure.
I guess the idea has always been in my head, even since I was little, to start a cafe. I wanted to have a cafe that was a mixture of like a music cafe, a place for artists to come because I'm an artist myself. And then also just an environment that everyone's welcome. And then it kind of merged into a health store, health focused. I was always raised more holistically than not. And it really just changed as I started this process of discovering plant-based foods and how it affected my body. And it was like a night and day difference between having juice and fresh foods in your body every day to not having it. So I got that experience. I worked at a juice bar in Nashville, Tennessee, called I Love Juice Bar. I love them. They're awesome, amazing
Nice.
people. If you're ever around an I Love Juice Bar, go there. I managed there for about a year and some change, and I really got the experience living the life. The juice life is what I call it. It's a night and day difference. I will preach juicing until I can't talk anymore. I love it.
Nice.
Um, so when I moved back to Pittsburgh, I got the opportunity to get that location in Aspinwall. And it pretty much just grew into this idea of I want to have a space that's molding, juice and smoothies. And that's more of what I have experience in. And then also bring in the food aspect and make it more of a healthy approach rather than just like a comfort foods type vegan place, which seems to be
Hmm.
the majority of places that open. So with those ideas, I mixed in now. I wanted to bring the musical artistic aspect in. And then, so when I was initially designing Botanical, it's actually meant to be more of like a lounge bar space that is used to entertain people like as a happy hour, mostly like lunch to evening time.
Hmm.
And we were actually going to install a whole bar space and like juice tend juices.
Okay.
We'll do that still, but we had to halt our construction. We were going to make those changes, and then COVID happened, and there's no bar seating. So it changes the aspect of what we were going for. We wanted to bring people together in a plant-based environment, without having to sacrifice your health and certain things like that. So initially, that's what the idea was, and we're slowly starting to get back to that. I
Yeah.
definitely worked more into the market space. So selling groceries, produce, and it's been fun too. It's been a change, but it's fun to like seek out the different kind of plant-based foods you can
Hmm.
put in a market or products. And there's a lot of green products coming out now too. So it's interesting to find all these different things and see if they work or not.
So you're like dabbling into all that new stuff. Um, what's the address? Tell us the address.
It is 209 Commercial Avenue.
Okay, so it's right in that stretch of businesses right there.
Yep, right off Freeport.
Okay. Now there was a juice place, like a juice smoothie place there before. Is that the same? Is that the spot that you've taken over?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Same spot. Mhm.
Nice. Okay. Well, I have not been there. I need to stop by. I had gone to the juice place before that, but haven't gone. So that's on my list. Are you open right now?
We are. Yep, we're
Or
open Monday through Saturday. Mhm.
okay, great. Um, So it's interesting you mentioned juicing. My ex-husband and I bought a juicer like 10 years ago, and it's been, kind of in the closet for 10 years. And just 2 weeks ago, I got it out. I was like, I'm going to try
Woo.
this again. And it's been interesting. It's an adventure. Like, definitely have made some juices that I do not like. So just finding some good recipes and things like that. So yeah, so that's interesting. Okay, so I have a bunch of questions as a person who's not a vegetarian or vegan. Um, and I figure some of the people that will be watching this little conversation might be coming from that same spot. So, but you can always jump in to say, oh, and by the way, I want to mention this other thing. But I think one of the things that I think of when people talk about being vegan is it's really difficult. It's difficult and expensive. And
Mhm.
so I imagine those are myths. that you can easily kind of break down for us. So I wonder, like, when people say that to you, well, I don't have the time to do it and I can't afford it. How do you respond?
Definitely. I mean, I think those are all valid concerns. I mean, the grocery store does make it very difficult the majority of time. A lot of packaged foods that are already prepared and vegan are usually a little bit more expensive. There are certain items that I buy from the grocery store that are pretty pricey, like cheeses and like a vegan mayonnaise and things like that are more packaged. But I think the best way around that is to just, and this is, no one wants to hear this, but this is just learn more about preparing vegan foods, and actually try them. And I think it's a little bit easier than the majority does. And of course, I've been doing it for a long time now. So it's just second nature. But I would suggest first is learning how to eat seasonally. I think the reason why some foods get so expensive produce wise is because they're shipped in from Mexico or from across the country. And that creates obviously a huge price increase in that food. So if you learn to eat the foods that are grown regionally within that season, it's going to make it a lot cheaper, especially local foods. Farmers markets
and that's just better for the environment as well. I mean, that has like an added benefit of being, much more environmentally responsible way of eating.
Definitely. But it's as I've been learning and creating recipes and sauces, I don't really change what I eat. I just find a substitution. So it's not necessarily, cutting out the foods that you love that aren't vegan. It's more so finding a way to substitute something that's plant-based instead of that. And oftentimes it won't be the same and you'll taste the difference and there'll be a texture difference. But I think it's just finding which of those substitutions you like better, or, maybe that's something that we just cut out and find something else that's interesting that you can implement into the diet.
Yeah. And from what you were just saying, maybe before we started recording, but, maybe the trade-off of maybe not eating eggs is maybe feeling better just in your body, like just the kind of result of, making different changes and just feeling better in your body. I will say, we're a library, so I have to have, this is one of our newest, I don't know if you know this book, but it's one of our newest books that we just added. And I feel like that's, very connected to, is it backwards on your screen or is it forward? Okay. It's backwards when I'm looking at it, so I never know. Yeah, so this is available here at our library, but I was just flipping through it and thinking, okay, this doesn't look like too overwhelming or difficult. Like lots of really good things that could be, I was thinking, I'm always looking for easy weeknight meals because there's no way I'm, making homemade lasagna when I get home. So, so that's just one of the books. But okay, so again, I think you might be biased on this one, but I always want to know, like, how hard is it really? Because it seems like such a transition, maybe for not everyone's diet. You might be a person who eats vegetarian a lot or a vegetarian already. And so making the change to being a vegan might not be such a big leap. For me, it would be a big leap. I feel like I'd probably go vegetarian first and then vegan, which is maybe something to recommend. But yeah, when people say that's a scary change, again, how do you respond to that? How hard is it really?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the environment that you place yourself within the most. I've always had the understanding that if you want to make a change in your life or you want to be a certain way, you should involve yourself in an environment that supports that as much as possible. So I think, finding a grocery store around your area that's more plant-based or has more organic whole food options could be an easy way to at least just start there. Just go there, see what they have, just buy stuff that's interesting at first, and just see what you like, see what you don't. You don't have to like everything.
Right.
And I find there are a couple ways that becoming vegan could be hard. And the first way that is usually short-lived is just your body's dependent on certain sugars that come from like dairy foods, and protein doesn't have sugar really, but there are different things that your body's used to consuming, that your digestive system changes the way how it amps up the acid to break down the food. So when you take those out of your diet, your body will notice that, and it will go into, its survival dependency mode and send an alert, we need this in our diet. It hasn't been there, is something wrong. So I think from a survival point, we have this red alarm in our body when we've set ourselves up to a certain pattern of eating. And I think that's just the hardest hump to get over. I know cheese is a tough one for a lot of people. I actually like vegan cheese more than regular cheese.
What?
Oh, how? I know that's not, except for brie. Every once in a while, if there's brie, I'm like, oh, but it's just the way it melts. It's just it stays melted. I don't know. I'm hooked on it now. But again, that's what your body's dependent upon, what it expects. When it sees something, your body learns to expect certain flavors, certain jumps in blood sugars and serotonin levels and all those things. So I think it's just training your body off of those responses is the hardest part.
And there's something to, if you know that kind of going into that transition, it's maybe easier to kind of work through. If it's a real shock, you're just oh my gosh, my body doesn't like this, or I definitely don't like this. Is this going to end? So the more you know, kind of thing. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think something too is that when people think about going vegan, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Our society and our culture is so set up to be all or nothing.
True.
And it doesn't have to be that way. If you want to implement, maybe just to start, I'm going to make 3 vegan meals this week, or to amp it up from there, I'm going to eat vegan food past 4 p.m. And I think also too, there's a lot of power and a lot of different kind of connotations behind the word vegan now too, that scares people away. And I've been using plant-based a lot. And I think that gives people a little bit of a different understanding. It makes it more tangible, we're just eating plants. There's not this whole different, untold story of what this new diet is. It's just, we're just eating plants.
Yeah, I think there is like I was saying, a mythology attached to veganism. You're a whole different kind of person. You have to live in a whole different kind of place.
Right.
You have to use all kinds of different words.
Your house has to be made of bamboo.
Right, exactly. You live in some kind of yurt. I mean, there's all kinds of, addition. Yeah, that doesn't mean this. That doesn't mean it.
I would love to live in a yurt though. Honestly, that'd be great.
That would be cool. Yeah. And I know a lot of people are doing kind of committing to several vegetarian meals during the week. So that's again, a way to kind of start or ease into it. And so that's, how about tips for eating vegan on the go? Again, that's another thing that, has intimidated me, thinking, oh, you can't just make a quick sandwich. And again, it's probably a myth, and pack that in your bag and be good to go. So so what is your response when people say that?
I love a good sandwich. And Botanical is kind of geared up for the to-go food now. So nice. Everything that we serve, it's in a to-go container, unless you say you want to sit down and eat with us. And you could eat it, in your car, hopefully when you're not driving, but you could quickly. It's plant-based, it's balanced, it's still delicious. And I just think that finding a place like that, like Botanical, could help you plan your meals, so that you can maybe pick up lunch for the next 3 days and just throw that in your bag. So a little bit of planning ahead definitely helps with that. But I think also stocking your fridge and thinking, okay, if I run out of time, because the majority of us are on some weird schedule and something happens, and even if I say, I'm going to meal prep this week, I never do.
Right.
I think maybe just setting yourself up for success is the best way to do that. So maybe grab carrots that are already cut up, and you can just throw them in a Ziploc bag if you get hungry, or almonds. I think people forget that nuts are plant-based. They're so good for you. And they pack such a good amount of fat, calories, energy that can keep you sustained between meals. Those are great things to just have with you. And then also you can buy the ingredients to make a sandwich, which I actually do. I love sandwiches so much. I used to not eat them because it was I'm like, how do I make a vegan sandwich? I don't know. And then I miss them, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a sandwich. And there are, there's sliced cheese that's vegan. It's really good. My favorite's provolone.
Mhm.
And there is sliced tofurkey meats, or you
Mhm.
can put some tofu on there, or you can just layer up the veggies, cucumber,
Yeah.
tomato, sprouts, lettuce. I mean, it's really good. And then I put veganese on there because I love mayonnaise.
Mhm.
I could eat it by the spoonful. It's really not. So I put veganese on there and mustard, and it's a really good sandwich. Like, I truly enjoy it.
That does sound like a great sandwich.
Yeah.
And I think too, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's a good time to be vegan right now. I feel like there's lots of options. It's not somewhere you have to go to like a specialty store to get sprouts anymore. I mean, maybe, when we were all younger, that was still something you had to go to the co-op, right? Like if you were
Yeah.
going to be a vegan, like you had to go to East Liberty. But so it's encouraging that you really can eat that way without having to go to a specialty store far away or something. So that's encouraging. And certainly we can stop and get food at Botanical. And I think that's a nice thing where you can get some food to kind of sample it and try it and say, well, I do like this sandwich and it's entirely vegan, so I could maybe try that on my own or something.
Yeah.
How about things to consider when transitioning to eating, we can say plant-based, a more plant-based diet or a plant-based diet, like any tips on how to kind of get, I know you've
Sure.
already kind of provided some, but yeah.
No, I think it's knowing and listening to your body is one of the most important things. I think again, societally, we're so trained to, if it's hard, then it's right. And I don't think I mean, there obviously things take work, but it doesn't need to be painful. So I think listening to your body and knowing when you need a little bit more energy is important. If you need more carbs, it's very important. If you need more fat,
Mhm.
and I think just taking the little bit extra time to learn where to source those things
Mhm.
would be really good to help sustain our energy throughout the day. I think probably the thing that will come up the most for people transitioning is they'll be hungry because they're used to the heavy fats and the heavy proteins that meat provides. And for some people, their body might need that. But I will still preach there's a way around it for plant-based foods. And I just think listening when you need something, when you need rest, if you're hungry, eat more. You don't have to follow the same pattern of or timeline that you were eating when you were changed your diet. So I mean, like it's a big change, and I think we underestimate the attention our bodies need daily. Water, hydration, fats, oils, proteins, carbohydrates. We need carbohydrates.
Yeah, right. And I think we're encouraged to kind of disconnect from that
Definitely.
kind of awareness and relationship with our body and how we physically feel. Like so much of the world is kind of geared toward like, get away from that, ignore that, and just do
Absolutely.
this. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the one thing too that I've been kind of digging into more, talking about is, the fad diets of like eat only smoothies for 5 days, or like the juice cleanse culture.
Right.
And like while it has its benefits, and like you should do it with a doctor who knows you and knows your body and knows your levels, it's not a sustainable way to create some life change. Like juicing for 5 days, some people and their bodies might love it. For instance, I could drink juice and smoothies all day and I am perfectly sustained.
Yeah.
I could eat lettuce all day and be perfectly sustained. But my husband, on the other hand, needs like heavy carbs, heavy starches, heavy proteins. His metabolism just burns everything up.
Right. We're all different. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if he were to drink like 6 juices in a day, he would be extremely malnourished.
Yeah.
Whereas my body loves that. I could do that. So I think it's just knowing your body, knowing what you need, and creating that balance for yourself.
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned juicing, and I'm interested in that right now as well, and I'm sure other people are. So I'm guessing you have a juicer and you're doing that at home a lot. Do you have any favorite combinations that you want to throw out?
I'm obsessed with coconut right now. I'm missing the warmth and the sunshine, so everything is
Sure.
coconut for me. And also mango, which I actually never used to like mango for some reason. And
Okay.
lately I've been loving chili mango life. I don't know if you've ever had a mango on a stick. Uh,
No.
it's like a Latin cultural like street food.
Okay.
Oh, it's so good. It's just a mango and they just like hammer it onto a stick and they dip it in chili powder and you just eat it.
Oh my.
And I would like to incorporate that, excuse me, I'd like to incorporate that this summer through it with Botanical because it's an amazing treat. It's delicious. It feels
And
like,
it's so simple.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one of my favorite snacks that
Yeah.
I've been eating. It's been
That
great.
sounds really good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've realized in juicing myself, I do not like anything with celery juice. I was like, okay, that is coming out loud and clear. Even if I combine it with other things that I do like, I'm like, ooh, I just can't. And I've had a love-hate relationship with celery in general. So
Mhm.
drinking it though, if there's just a little bit in there, I'm like, I find it and I don't like it. So yeah, so I've sworn that off. But I know, the fruit juices are really easy and yummy. And I find the transition to really getting to like a vegetable juice to be a little challenging
Yeah.
because it's a different flavors. And like what does it mean and how hard do you have to work at it? But there's so many kind of resources out there. Do you follow any kind of great juicing Instagram accounts or vegan or plant-based accounts that you want to recommend?
There are a ton out
Yeah.
there, honestly, and there's not really a specific one that I want to recommend, but I would say go out there and see, like, just type in
Yeah.
vegan recipes, or there are so many accounts that have like a different kind of energy behind them.
Mhm.
One is more like, look at this really beautiful vegan creation that I made, and there's another one that's like, follow this recipe for an easy quick
Right.
dinner. And then there's one that's more like, this is why I'm vegan because of the environment. And then there's one more
Yeah.
geared towards like the truths and facts about the animal
Yeah.
industry. And so they all kind of have their own goals that they
Yeah.
try to put out. So I think whatever really strikes you, type that in, and you'll find more of the things that are relatable.
Yeah, you can kind of plug in wherever you
Yeah,
like the biggest attraction, what really attracts you to eating a
definitely.
plant-based diet. Yeah, you'll find someone else out there who's living that life and able to share. Yeah, that's great. Anything else like anything like any great pieces of any dishes or anything you want to share from Botanical that would tempt us to head down there?
Ooh. We have some really fun stuff gearing up for the summertime. I'm really excited. Last summer, obviously, was like COVID was hitting hot, so
Yeah.
we didn't get to roll out a lot of the fun stuff. But we're building out our patio this year. We have a little small side patio that I'm going to
Oh,
make
nice.
more of the lounge feel that I intended the inside to be. So we're going to start rolling out more of our like mocktails. And we have a lot of fun coconut drinks. I'm going to make a coconut smoothie and drink that you can drink out of the coconut itself.
No, that's great.
Oh yeah.
So fun.
So yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. I'm excited. And then hopefully, depending on where COVID is, mid to late summer, we'll be doing. I would like to do like a little street fair. Aspinwall is such a great community. Everyone just gets together there, so it's a great
It
place for
really
that.
is. Yeah.
And do some juice tending. So we'll do some bartending with juices and have
Juice
some
tending.
there.
Okay, like that's a new term. I haven't heard
Yeah.
that. Juice tending. Okay, got it. That's great.
So yeah, I mean, well, I'd like to start incorporating the music and get some jazz musicians out there and some blues musicians and just get the vibe going finally. So
That sounds really, really wonderful. Like a whole like a whole vibe. So you got really
yeah,
great food, great people, culture, art, music.
yeah.
That sounds really fun. Let's hope we're kind of rounding the corner of COVID right now.
No,
And
I know.
yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's
All right.
been obviously hardest hit, healthcare obviously, but restaurants, I mean, it's just been kind of devastating.
It's
So
a journey. Whew.
and when did you open?
I opened a week before Pittsburgh shut down.
Oh man,
It was good.
that's some universe timing there.
I was
That's
like,
right.
maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this, but
But
I mean,
you've been able to stay open, right? You've been
I
able to.
tell you what, I've gotten funding right when I needed it, and it's been just enough each time.
Yeah,
And I think that the community has been gathering around us more and more. And as the weather gets nice, people are coming out. So I'm hopeful that
yeah,
things will start to boost, and yeah, it'll be
yeah.
good.
I think people will be very excited to kind of get back out to restaurants and
Oh yeah.
enjoy food that someone else has made again, because that's a huge, wonderful thing in
Oh
life.
my God.
So,
I know.
well, thank you so much for talking to me. I have a feeling people who are watching and listening will head down to Botanical whenever they can and get a vegan sandwich and some juice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. What time do you open on Monday on the weekdays?
Monday and Tuesday we're open 9 to 4, and then Wednesday through Friday we're open 9 to 6, and Saturdays 10 to 4.
Okay, those are great hours. We're right up the road, so I can maybe run down to get a juice that is
There you
probably
go.
better made than any juice I'm making.
Just don't get the Popeye because that's mostly celery and cucumber. You won't like
Oh, good to know. Oh, that's rough. That's good
That's
to
the
know.
more
I have
advanced
to I have to
balance.
confess, I made a juice with, I don't remember everything that was in it, but beets, which I love beets. But it was one of the worst things I've ever tasted. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to give up on beets entirely, but whatever it might have been entirely vegetables,
Oh,
maybe all root, but I don't know what I did, but I was like, ooh, I can't do that one. But yeah, I'm eager to try beets again. So,
yeah.
but
Well,
yeah, thank
come
you
out
so
and
much.
try our house red. That has been so
Yeah, I
good.
feel like you all do it better, and smoothies are even more delicious than juice. I love a good smoothie. Yeah.
Smoothies are the best.
Yeah. And I have to say, as a person who has IBS, smoothies are the way to start the day. For me with IBS, like it just sets everything off on a good path. So yeah. So
For you.
I'll be down. Yes, thank you. And thanks for talking with us, Grace. And
Oh
I
yeah,
guess
thank you
we'll,
so much for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, we'll see you on Commercial Avenue.
All right, sounds
All
great.
right. Thanks, everyone.